staying in New York, Governor Hochul's plans for quarantine camps may be in the works again. An appeals court just dismissed a lawsuit from lawmakers and citizen groups. Their attorney, Bobby-Ann Cox, disagrees with the decision. We spoke earlier today.
Thank you for joining me once again, everybody. Welcome to a Knoxx We Trust. Let's dive right in. They're at it again. They're at it again. I shouldn't even say they're at it again because, in all honesty, they never stopped. What haven't they stopped, you might ask? Well, the medical tyranny, of course. Remember back in November of last year, the New York State Appellate Court reversed a decision that was made by the trial court regarding Kathy Hochul's tyrannical quarantine and isolation regulation. Governmental overreach indeed, right? You may or may not remember. But, you know what? Governor Hochul and Attorney General Letitia James adamantly fought to assure that unconstitutional, authoritarian medical tyranny can be utilized against the citizens of the state of New York. That's right. That's right. Whenever they enact their emergency powers. But I'll let Attorney Bobby-Ann Cox fill you in on the particulars. She's a lot more eloquent than I am, so let's take a look.
Bobby-Ann Cox, welcome to our show. Thank you so much for joining us. To begin with, can you please explain the judge's ruling in this case and your initial response here?
Yes, well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. So what happened was the Fourth Department Appellate Division here in New York State ruled that my plaintiffs, Senator George Borrello, Assemblyman Chris Tague, Congressman Mike Lawler, and a citizens group called Uniting New York State didn't have standing to bring the lawsuit last year, which, if you recall, we actually won the lawsuit last year at the trial court level when the court ruled in our favor and said that this regulation that Governor Hochul and her Department of Health made it was an unconstitutional regulation on multiple levels. So now this appellate court, which, of course, the governor and the attorney general appealed to this court. They tried to overturn our decision. And yeah, the court came down and said, well, you know what? We're not even going to talk about the merits here, whether or not this regulation was unconstitutional or not. We're just going to say, hey, you know what? We don't think you had the right to bring the lawsuit in the first place last year.
So the New York Court of Appeals finds that the legislative branch does not have the right to even file the lawsuit in the first place. I'm sorry, is that how checks and balances works? If they don't have the right, then who the hell does? Seeing any similarities with a recent judicial ruling that took place right here in New York? No. For a fabricated crime? Some trumped up charges? What's happening here? Is our entire system just falling apart around us? What's going on? If we can't trust the branches of government to hold each other accountable, right? Right? Then what exactly is going on here? What are we doing?
And what's your assessment of that decision? What's your assessment of the reasoning here?
Yeah, it's pretty surprising, I have to say. The trial court judge last year didn't even discuss standing. It was an argument that was brought up by the attorney general last year at the trial court, but it's so obvious that we have standing that the trial court judge didn't even discuss it in his decision. So it was very surprising, and I don't agree. My plaintiffs and I do not agree with this ruling. We do not believe that sitting New York State legislators and the people of New York State, in a citizens group, don't have standing. It doesn't make sense. So
Right.
We definitely disagree with this ruling.
And just for our viewers, what would be the potential impact of this ruling for New York, for the rest of America? As you've said, it could have an impact on the whole nation.
This absolutely can have a catastrophic impact on the rest of the nation. If you allow this kind of tyranny to take place right here in New York State, the capital of the world, as far as I'm concerned, no? It'll be the beginning of the end. It'll be Pandora's box flung wide open. And we all know what happens then, right? I'm pretty sure we all know what happens then.
Yes. So, what has happened with this ruling is that they have said, in essence, the lawsuit last year, the ruling there isn't valid anymore. So, what that means is that the Department of Health and Governor Hochul are open to reissuing that regulation if they want to, which means they can reinstitute their isolation and quarantine procedures regulation, which the judge had struck down last year. So if they can reissue that now, that means that it's going to be a valid regulation and it's going to be enforceable by the Department of Health, the governor, the attorney general.
This is why we need to be attentive and alert in order to begin to make these connections. Because I'm pretty certain everybody out there has noticed how the mainstream media and medical pundits and the like make mountains out of a molehill, right? One case of measles, it's a measles epidemic, oh my God! One slight fever, a runny nose, oh my God, it's the swine flu, it's the Spanish flu, it's the, insert whatever you want here, flu epidemic. And as soon as we cave to their fear-mongering bullshit, they launch their emergency protocols to seize power and then implement their tyrannical procedures like the quarantine and isolation regulation. Yahtzee!
So it's really a dangerous situation. You know, the other thing, and in addition to that regulation now being open to being reissued, the other problem is that this is really bad case law. An appellate court is saying that these legislators don't have the right to bring a lawsuit against the executive branch of government when they feel that the executive branch of government has usurped their power, has taken their power to make law. Yeah. You know, it's very clear, 3 branches of government, each branch has its own job, its own authority. And here, it was clear that the executive branch overstepped and reached into the legislative branch's powers. Yeah. You have to be able to challenge that in court.
Absolutely. That entire process is what makes America America. It's what separates us from all the other countries. It's what has made us the greatest country in the world. Although it appears as though the powers that be now want to dismantle it. Is it any wonder why we the people believe that the system is corrupt and everything is stacked against us? With self-serving, empty soup politicians doing the bidding of whoever lobbies them? It doesn't make any sense unless you take it at face value. And at face value, what they want is totalitarian rule. They'll start with a little socialism, which will ultimately become communism or totalitarianism. You choose. You get the point. That's where it's going. That's what they want. If I take it at face value.
Absolutely. That is concerning. And in a tangible way, how might this affect people's lives? Say, for a potential future pandemic or such?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, so the regulation can be reinstituted now because of this court decision. So that means the regulation, for any of your viewers who are not familiar with the regulation, it allows the Department of Health to pick and choose which New Yorkers they can lock up or lock down without any proof that you're sick, without any proof you've been exposed to a communicable disease. There's no time limit, so they could lock you up or lock you down for days or weeks or months. There's no location restrictions. They can put you in any facility they want. They can either lock you down in your house or they can remove you from your house with the force of police and put you into a facility, detention center, whatever you want to call it, that they choose. You would have no say. And then once you're locked up or you're locked down, there's no procedure in this regulation that says how you get out of quarantine once you're in there. So, you know, just to give you an example, we were at the trial court last year arguing in front of the judge, and the judge asked the attorney general, you know, if you take a family and you put them into a facility somewhere, how do they get out? And, you know, the attorney general said, well, you know, they could hire a lawyer and they could sue us.
That sound like they got your best interest in mind there, buddy? Huh? the Attorney General, Letitia James, a black woman, saying, well, they can hire a lawyer and they can sue us. They can sue their way out. That sound good? Now you might say, well, Knoxx, why'd you have to mention that she's a black woman? Well, I'm going to tell you why. See, one of the biggest misconceptions that Democrat voters in particular have is if a political candidate matches their complexion or their gender or is a member of their ethnic group, they are, by those defining factors alone, the better choice. We Latinos and blacks, we have to stop that. Okay? For some reason, we buy into this nonsense, as opposed to making our decisions based on the merits, achievements, and successful policies of these political candidates. And I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this being used as a tactic against us, as though we can't think and discern good policy from bad policy for ourselves. What we need to do is stop falling for this shit and start paying attention, because if you're one of those people say, well, I'm not into politics. Well, let me tell you something. Politics is into you. All right? Regardless. You know, the reason I let off with this retro video of Kathy Hochul's totalitarian policy is, is to remind everybody about Kathy Hochul and Letitia James' tyrannical medical protocol. Because we have another case of another medical tyrant. More medical tyranny being ushered in, this time by Assembly Member Karines Reyes. I'm going to assume that's how you pronounce her name. Karines, not really sure. I think it's Karines Reyes. A self-defined Afro-Latina woman from the Dominican Republic, and an oncology nurse at Montefiore Medical Center. Okay? What does this lunatic want to do? Well, what she wants is to make it legal for your child and my child as minors to be able to consent to medical procedures without a parent or guardian. That's right. That's right. What can they consent to, you ask? Well, here we go. First thing on the agenda, first thing they put on the list, immunization, vaccination. They could get the flap. I'm sure there's no agenda there. No, you mind? No fucking way. No agenda. No. They can get medical and dental procedures, psychiatric evaluations, and so on and so forth. We're going to get into that right now. Don't worry. We're going to get into that. Still think they got our best interest in mind? Still think so? Well, if best interest is defined by ushering in an invasion, medical tyranny, collapsing our economy, sprinkled in with violent crime at an all-time high, then they fucking rock, man. Hell yeah, they do. They got it. They got it.
It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Absolutely. Bobby Ann Cox, you've done an amazing job representing these plaintiffs and driving forward this case. For any viewers out there who are interested and concerned and interested and want to help, you can donate. That's always useful. CoxLawyers.com. And you can also read more about this on Bobby Ann Cox's Substacks. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me on.
So this is Assembly Member Karines Reyes' page. Here you can go and read up on her. She's a Bronxite, successful Latin woman, and this is the kind of policy she endorses. This is what she sees as a betterment for the people, for her constituents who she'd represent. Medical tyranny is what she wants to usher in. Oh shoot! All right, yeah, all right. Let's move on to the meat and potatoes of this whole thingamabobber here. Yes. Here we go. As you can see, A6761 slash S8352. Now, I'm only going to read like a couple of things in particular. I'm not going to read the entire bill. However, I will be providing the link to this page so you can read the bill in its entirety and you can see the amendments that this assembly member wants to make. So here we go. I'm going to start off with what already exists here, okay, which is medical, dental. All right, so medical, dental, health, and hospital services may be rendered to persons of any age without the consent of a parent, legal guardian, or possessing a lawful order of custody when in the physician's practitioner's judgment an emergency exists and the person is in immediate need of medical attention, and an attempt to secure consent would result in delay of treatment, which would increase the risk to the person's life or health. Now, that already exists, and it makes sense. If a child is in danger, a minor is in danger, and it's a life and death situation, you can't really wait till you receive consent. Those situations can occur. Should you still, absolutely try? I mean, what parents will normally be there, but in any exception, I can see that. Now, the amendment that they want to make. Let's go. However, a child who may give consent to medical, dental, health, and hospital services pursuant to this section may give such consent to their own immunization, and the consent of no other person shall be necessary. No other consent is needed. Okay? But they're not trying to, force anything, right? They're not trying to entice minors who are probably ill-informed or absolutely uninformed to go get the blah, 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 blah. No, absolutely not. Don't you dare say such things, okay? Don't believe your lying eyes or your lying ears, okay? That's not what they want. They don't want to give them the blah, 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 blah. Any person, including a minor, who comprehends the need for, the nature of, and the reasonably foreseeable risk and benefit involved in any contemplated medical, dental, health, and or hospital services and any alternative thereto may give effective consent to such services for themselves, and the consent of no other person shall be necessary. The Commissioner is authorized to promulgate rules and regulations necessary to effectuate provisions of this subdivision. So, you see that right there, right? Interesting stuff, if not scary, because that's the way I take it. That is, I'm at a loss for words, actually. I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of this. That's why I wanted to put this video out. So, we've come to our conclusion. And again, I want to thank everyone for joining me here. I hope you found this informative. Please don't forget to slap that like button around a little bit. Pow! Smack that shit around a little bit. Subscribe right here on YouTube if you haven't already done so. If you're over on Rumble, go ahead and follow over there. You can also catch me on other social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and 10. Everything you need is in the description below. I will also be providing the links to things that you saw here today. So, thank you very much, everybody. You already know. Pretty good, pretty neat. Later.